Dressage is a highly skilled form of riding performed in exhibition and competition, as well as an art sometimes pursued solely for the sake of mastery. As an equestrian sport defined by the International Equestrian Federation, dressage is the highest expression of horse training, where horse and rider are expected to perform from memory a series of predetermined movements. Competitions are held at all levels from amateur to the Olympic Games and World Equestrian Games. Its fundamental purpose is to develop, through standardized progressive training methods, a horse's natural athletic ability and willingness to perform, thereby maximizing its potential as a riding horse. At the peak of a dressage horse's gymnastic development, the horse responds smoothly to a skilled rider's minimal aids. The rider is relaxed and appears effort-free while the horse willingly performs the requested movement. The discipline has a rich history with ancient roots in the writings of Xenophon. Modern dressage has evolved as an important equestrian pursuit since the Renaissance, when Federico Grison's The Rules of Riding was published in 1550, the first treatise on equitation in over 1,000 years since Xenophon's On Horsemanship. Much about training systems used today reflects practices of classical dressage. In modern dressage competition, successful training at the various levels is demonstrated through the performance of tests, prescribed series of movements ridden within a standard arena. Judges evaluate each movement on the basis of an objective standard appropriate to the level of the test and assign each movement a score from 0 to 10, 0 being not executed and 10 being excellent. A score of 9 is very good and is a high mark, while a competitor achieving all success should be considering moving on to the next level. Dressage horses. All riding horses can benefit from use of dressage principles and training techniques. The most popular horse breeds seen at the Olympics and other international FEI competitions are warm-blood horses bred for dressage. In classical dressage training and performances that involve the airs above the ground, the Baroque breeds of horses are popular and purposely bred for these specialties. Arena. There are two sizes of arenas, small and standard. Each has letters assigned to positions around the arena for dressage tests to specify where movements are to be performed. Cones with letters on them are positioned on the sidelines of the arena for reference as to where a movement is to be performed. The small arena is 20 by 40 meters and is used for the lower levels of eventing in the dressage phase, as well as for some pure dressage competitions at lower levels. Its letters around the outside edge, starting from the point of entry and moving clockwise. RAKHCMBF. Letters also mark locations along the center line in the middle of the arena. Moving down the center line from A, there DXG, with X being directly between E and B. The standard arena is 20 by 60 meters, and is used for tests in both pure dressage and eventing. The standard dressage arena letters are AKVESHCMRBPF. The letters on the long sides of the arena, nearest the corners, are 6 meters in from the corners, and are 12 meters apart from each other. The letters along the center line are DLXIG, with X again being halfway down the arena. There is speculation as to why these letters were chosen. Most commonly it is believed because the German cavalry had a 20 times 60 meter area in between the barracks which had the letters posted above the doors, as well as the center line. The arena also has two quarter lines, which lie between the center line and the long side of the arena. However, these are infrequently, if ever, used for competition except in a freestyle. At the start of the test, the horse enters the arena at an opening at A. Ideally, this opening is then closed for the duration of the test. However, this is not always logistically possible, particularly at smaller competitions with smaller volunteer bases. Judges. Judges are registered through the National Federation depending on the judge's experience and training, with the highest qualified being registered with the FEI for international competition. Judges are strictly regulated to ensure as consistent marking as possible within the limits of subjectivity, and in FEI competitions, it is expected that all judges' final percentage be within 5% of each other. There is always a judge sitting at C, although for upper-level competition, there can be up to 7 judges at different places around the arena at C, E, B, K, F, M, and H, which allows the horse to be seen in each movement from all angles. This helps prevent certain faults from going unnoticed, which may be difficult for a judge to see from only one area of the arena. For example, the horse's straightness going across the diagonal may be assessed by judges at M and H. Although the judges' positions are known by the closest letter, only C, B, and E are actually directly behind the respective marker, with the other judges being on the short sides rather than on the long side where the letter would seem to indicate. Competition. Dressage competitions consist of a series of individual tests with an increasing level of difficulty. The most accomplished horse and rider teams perform FEI tests, written by the International Equestrian Governing Body called the Fédération Équestre Internationale or FEI. The highest level of modern competition is at the Grand Prix level. This is the level test written in the prestigious international competitions, such as the Olympic Games, Dressage World Cup, and World Equestrian Games. Dressage governed by the rules of the FEI include the following levels: Small Tour, Intermediate A, Intermediate B, and Big Tour. In addition, there are 4 to 6 lower levels, occasionally more, regulated in individual nations by the respective national federation. The lower levels ask horses for basic gaits, relatively large circles, and a lower level of collection than the international levels. Lateral movements are not required in the earliest levels, and movements such as the leg yield, shoulder in, or haunches in are gradually introduced as the horse progresses, until the point at which the horse can compete in the FEI levels. Apart from competition, there is the tradition of classical dressage, in which the traditional training of dressage is pursued as an art form. The traditions of the masters who originated dressage are kept alive by the Spanish riding school in Vienna, Austria, Escola Portuguesa de Arte Equestre in Lisbon, Portugal, and the Cadre Noir in Saumur, France. This type of schooling is also a part of Portuguese and Spanish bullfighting exhibitions. Tests. Dressage tests of the formalized sequence of a number of dressage movements used in competition. Although horses and riders are competing against each other, tests are completed by one horse and rider combination at a time, and horses and riders are judged against a common standard, rather than having the performance scored relative to the other competitors. At the upper levels, tests for international competitions, including the Olympics, are issued under the auspices of the FEI. At the lower levels, and as part of dressage training, each country authorizes its own set of tests. For example, in the USA it is the United States Equestrian Federation and the United States Dressage Federation. In Great Britain, dressage is overseen by British Dressage. Pony clubs also produce their own tests, including basic walk-trot tests which cater for child riders. Each test is segmented into a number of sequential blocks which may contain one or more movements. Each block is generally scored between 1 and 10 on a scale such as the following: 10 excellent, 9 very good, 8 good, 7 fairly good, 6 satisfactory, 5 marginal, 4 insufficient, 3 fairly bad, 2 bad, 1 very bad, 0 not executed. Since 2011, all international tests, and some national tests, have also allowed half marks in all blocks. Along with each mark, a comment may be given, which can describe things a rider and horse lack during the movement, or what they have. Any of the definitions of each numeric mark can only be used in the comment if the mark corresponds with the definition. In addition to marks for the dressage movements, marks are also awarded for more general attributes such as the horse's gait, submission, impulsion and the rider's performance. Some segments are given increased weight by the use of a multiplier or coefficient. Coefficients are typically given a value of 2, which then doubles the marks given for that segment. Movements that are given a coefficient are generally considered to be particularly important to the horse's progression in training, and should be competently executed prior to moving up to the next level of competition. The scores for the general attributes of gait, submission, impulsion, and rider performance mentioned above are scored using a coefficient. Scribing. Scribing is the writing down of the scores and comments of judges at dressage events, so that the judge can concentrate on the performance. In addition to this, the scribe should check the identity of each competitor, and ensure that the test papers are complete and signed before handing them to the scorers. The scribe should have some knowledge of dressage terminology, be smartly dressed, and have legible handwriting. The scribe should also be professional in manner, neutral and not engage in small talk or make comments. It is permissible to use abbreviations provided they are accepted and intelligible. According to the United States Dressage Federation, anyone can volunteer at a schooling show to scribe. Schooling shows are not recognized as official shows but are a great way to practice riding tests and to learn to scribe for a judge. Once you have scribed at a schooling show and at the lower levels, you may ask to scribe at a recognized show and perhaps even the FEI levels of competition. Scribing or penciling is also an integral part of a judge's training as they look to become accredited or upgrade to a higher level. International level. At the international level, dressage tests governed by the FEI are the Prix, Georges, Intermediate, Intermediate 2, and Grand Prix. The dressage tests performed at the Olympic Games dressage competition are Grand Prix. This level of test demands the most skill and concentration from both horse and rider. Movements included in Grand Prix dressage tests are piaffe, a calm, composed, elevated trot in place passage, a very collected trot, in which the horse has great elevation of stride and seems to pause between putting down its feet. Described very well like a horse trotting underwater, it takes great strength and training to get a good passage. Extended gaits, usually done at the trot and canter, the horse lengthens its stride to the maximum length through great forward thrust and reach. Grand Prix horses show amazing trot extensions, though not as visually impressive. Equally important is the extended walk, which shows that the horse can easily relax and stretch in the midst of the more collected movements. Collected gaits, a shortening of stride in which the horse brings its hindquarters more underneath himself and carries more weight on his hind end. The tempo does not change, the horse simply shortens and elevates his stride. Flying changes in sequence, informally called tempis or tempi changes. At this level, the horse changes leads at the canter every stride, 2 strides, 3 strides or 4 strides. Pirouette, a 360-degree turn in place, usually performed at the canter. In a freestyle to music test, a turn of up to 720 degrees is permissible for Grand Prix. Half pass, a movement where the horse goes on a diagonal, moving sideways and forward at the same time, while bent slightly in the direction of movement. Tests ridden at the Olympic Games are scored by a panel of 7 international judges. Each movement in each test receives a numeric score from 0 to 10, and the resulting final score is then converted into a percentage, which is carried out to 3 decimal points. The higher the percentage, the higher the score. Olympic team medals are won by the teams with the highest combined percentages from the best 3 rides in the Grand Prix test. Once the team medals are determined, horses and riders compete for individual medals. The team competition serves as the first individual qualifier, in that the top 25 horse-rider combinations from the Grand Prix test move on to the next round. The second individual qualifier is the Grand Prix Special Test, which consists of Grand Prix movements arranged in a different pattern. For those 25 riders, the scores from the Grand Prix and the Grand Prix Special are then combined, and the resulting top 15 horse-rider combinations move on to the individual medal competition, the crowd-pleasing Grand Prix freestyle to music. For the freestyles, riders and horses perform specially choreographed patterns to music. At this level, the freestyle tests may contain all the Grand Prix movements, as well as double canter pirouettes, pirouettes in piaffe, and half-pass in passage. For the freestyle, judges award technical marks for the various movements, as well as artistic marks. In the case of a tie, the ride with the higher artistic marks wins. Training scale. Competitive dressage training in the U.S. is based on a progression of 6 steps developed by the German National Equestrian Federation. This system is arranged in a pyramid or sequential fashion, with rhythm and regularity at the start of the pyramid and collection at the end. The training scale is helpful and effective as a guide for the training of any horse, but has come to be most closely associated with dressage. Despite its appearance, the training scale is not meant to be a rigid format. Instead, each level is built on as the horse progresses in training. So a Grand Prix horse would work on the refinement of the first levels of the pyramid, instead of focusing on only the final level. Collection. Quote, the levels are also interconnected. For example, a crooked horse cannot develop impulsion, and a horse that is not relaxed will be less likely to travel with a rhythmic gait. However, this training scale as presented below is a translation from the German to the English. As such, it is possibly not as accurate as it could be. It has been suggested, for example, that Losgelasenheit might be more accurately translated as suppleness. Rhythm and regularity. Rhythm, gait, tempo, and regularity should be the same on straight and bending lines, through lateral work, and through transitions. Rhythm refers to the sequence of the footfalls, which should only include the pure walk, pure trot, and pure canter. The regularity, or purity, of the gait includes the evenness and levelness of the stride. Once a rider can obtain pure gaits, or can avoid irregularity, the combination may be fit to do a more difficult exercise. Even in the very difficult piaffe there is still regularity. The horse trots on the spot in place, raising the front and hind legs in rhythm. Relaxation. The second level of the pyramid is relaxation. Signs of looseness in the horse may be seen by an even stride that is swinging through the back and causing the tail to swing like a pendulum. Looseness at the pole, a soft chewing of the bit, and a relaxed blowing through the nose. The horse makes smooth transitions, is easy to position from side to side, and willingly reaches down into the contact as the reins are lengthened. Contact. The third level of the pyramid is the result of the horse's pushing power, and should never be achieved by the pulling of the rider's hands. The rider encourages the horse to stretch into soft hands that allow the horse to lift the base of the neck, coming up into the bridle, and should always follow the natural motion of the animal's head. The horse should have equal contact in both reins. Impulsion. The pushing power of the horse is called impulsion and is the fourth level of the training pyramid. Impulsion is created by storing the energy of engagement. Proper impulsion is achieved by means of correct driving aids of the rider, relaxation of the horse, throughness, the flow of energy through the horse from front to back and back to front. The musculature of the horse is connected, supple, elastic, and unblocked, and the rider's aids go freely through the horse. Impulsion can occur at the walk, trot, and canter. It is highly important to establish good forward movement and impulsion at the walk, as achieving desirable form in the trot and canter relies heavily on the transition from a good, supple, forward walk. Impulsion not only encourages correct muscle and joint use, but also engages the mind of the horse, focusing it on the rider and, particularly at the walk and trot, allowing for relaxation and dissipation of nervous energy. Straightness. A horse is straight when the hind legs follow the path of the front legs, on both straight lines and on bending lines, and the body follows the line of travel. Straightness allows the horse to channel its impulsion directly toward its center of balance, and allows the rider's hand aids to have a connection to the hind end. Collection. At the apex of the training scale stands collection. It may refer to collected gaits. They can be used occasionally to supplement less vigorous work. It involves difficult movements in more advanced horses. Collection requires greater muscular strength, so must be advanced upon slowly. When in a collected gait, the stride length should shorten, and the stride should increase in energy and activity. When a horse collects, more weight moves to the hindquarters. Collection is natural for horses and is often seen during pasture play. A collected horse can move more freely. The joints of the hind limbs have greater flexion, allowing the horse to lower the hindquarters, bringing the hind legs further under the body, and lighten and lift the forehand. In essence, collection is the horse's ability to move its center of gravity to the rear. Airs above the ground. The school jumps, or airs above the ground, are a series of higher-level classical dressage movements where the horse leaves the ground. These include the capriole, courbet, the mezere, the croupade, and levade. None are used in modern competitive dressage, but are performed by horses of various riding academies, including the Spanish Riding School in Vienna, Escola Portuguesa de Arte Equestre in Lisbon, Portugal, and the Cadre Noir in Saumur. Baroque horse breeds such as the Andalusian, Lusitano, and Lipizan are most often trained to perform the airs today, in part due to their powerfully conformed hindquarters, which allow them the strength to perform these difficult movements. There is a popular belief that these moves were originally taught to horses for military purposes, and indeed both the Spanish Riding School and the Cadre Noir are military foundations. However, while agility was necessary on the battlefield, most of the airs as performed today would have actually exposed horses' vulnerable underbellies to the weapons of foot soldiers. It is therefore more likely that the airs were exercises to develop the agility, responsiveness, and physiology of the military horse and rider, rather than to be employed in combat. Dressage masters. The earliest practitioner who wrote treatises that survive today that describe sympathetic and systematic training of the horse was the Greek general Xenophon. Despite living over 2,000 years ago, his ideas are still widely praised. Beginning in the Renaissance, a number of early modern trainers began to write on the topic of horse training, each expanding upon the work of the predecessors, including Federico Grazzone, Antoine de Pluvienel, William Cavendish, 1st Duke of Newcastle, François Roberchon de la Guérinière, François Borchardt, and Gustave Steinbrecht. The 20th century saw an increase in writing and teaching about dressage training and techniques as the discipline became an international sport with the influence of Olympic equestrian competition, TAC, The rules on permitted cavesons, saddles, saddle pads, etc. are subject to change and change as more and more styles and stylish equipments are introduced into the marketplace. Dressage horses are shown in minimal tack. They are not permitted to wear boots or wraps during the test, nor are they allowed to wear martingales or training devices such as draw or running reins or that go anywhere on the showgrounds during the competition. Due to the formality of dressage, tack is usually black leather, although dark brown is seen from time to time. An English-style saddle is required for riding dressage, specifically a dressage saddle, which is modeled exclusively for the discipline. It is designed with a long and straight saddle flap mirroring the leg of the dressage rider, which is long with a slight bend in the knee, a deep seat and usually a pronounced knee block. Dressage saddles have longer billets and use shorter girth than other types of English saddles to minimize the straps and buckles underneath the rider's legs. The saddle is usually placed over a square, white saddle pad. Colored trim on the white saddle pad is permitted. A dressage saddle is required in FEI classes, although any simple English-type saddle may be used at the lower levels. At the lower levels of dressage, a bridle includes a plain caveson, drop noseband, or flash noseband. Currently, drop nosebands are relatively uncommon, with the flash more common. At the upper levels, a plain caveson is used on a double bridle. Figure-8 nosebands are not allowed in pure dressage, however they are allowed in the dressage phase of eventing. Riders are not allowed to use quintin nosebands, due to the severity. Beads and color trim are permitted along the brow band of the bridle. The dressage horse at lower levels is only permitted to be shown at recognized competitions in a snaffle bit, though the detail regarding bitting varies slightly from organization to organization. The loose ring snaffle with a single or double joint is most commonly seen. Harsher snaffle bits, such as twisted wire, corkscrews, slow twists, and waterfords are not permitted, nor appellums, kimberwickers, or gag bits. Upper level and FEI dressage horses are shown in a double bridle, using both a bradoon and a curb bit with a smooth curb chain.